Thank you for joining us today for the webinar, The Data Angle, where we're talking to two companies that are doing interesting things for agents in the space of data and technology when it comes to customer experience, understanding the customer better, being more efficient. So I want to kick it off with introductions, and we'll start from right to left. And according to my screen, that's you, Seth.
Hello, my name is Seth Zaremba, Cleveland, Ohio. Couple things going on in the insurance industry, retail agency, property and casualty agency called Zinc, and Be Atomic, which is a technology company that's come from our independent agency, which I'm sitting in today.
Anurag?
Hi, everyone. This is Anurag. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Aureus Analytics, currently dialing in from Connecticut. So I'm looking forward to this wonderful conversation.
Ron?
Hey, Ron Schroyer, VP of Sales at Aureus Analytics, and I'm coming to you from Pittsburgh, much to the angst of Seth in Cleveland right now. So looking forward to talking with everyone today.
And Sid.
What's up, guys? Floridian who lives in Minnesota now, and I am the peanut butter to Seth's jelly, working at Be Atomic, handling all things marketing. However, considering it's a new project, I also have a couple other things under my belt too. So, but definitely in on the marketing side of things.
Are you the peanut butter or the jelly? Because I'm a peanut butter guy. I'll fight for that.
Are we already fighting? We're not even like 5 minutes.
Sorry, Avi. I just got distracted by peanut butter.
No, that's a good question. So I want to take a minute or two, and I want to share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see it. So hold on. So a year ago, I would say last year, I came to Aureus with a problem. And one of the problem was that I was spending way too much time looking at Yelp reviews. And, you know, you go to a restaurant, you want to make sure you make the right choice, but there's thousands and thousands of reviews sometimes, and you want to get to the bottom line. And there's been a lot of talk about data and insurance and conferences, and a lot of it in the context of underwriting and understanding the customer better. But a lot of it, I find personally, is hard to digest. So what is a good way to digest the power of data? Food. So we came to Aureus Analytics and we said, here's a bunch of reviews, and we're talking about tens of thousands of reviews. And this was ahead of ITC in 2019, because people going to the conference, they'll need to find a good place to eat. So we looked at the top 10 restaurants in Vegas, and we analyzed all the reviews. And basically what you're seeing here is in one page, the result of thousands and thousands of reviews. So for example, I believe that how many exclamation points you put in a review says a lot. And in this specific restaurant, the number of occurrences of exclamation points in reviews, 63%. So 63% of reviews had an exclamation point. What are the most popular dishes that people are talking about? So get to the bottom line. When I go to the restaurant, I want to know what I'm ordering. So the carne asada, the street tacos, the tableside guacamole. So when you look at the data, really, there's so much you could discover when you have kind of that everything in place, and once you have everything in place and you discover the insights, your answers, and then questions that come from that, I think are more interesting. So if you want to take a look at that, just go to Coverager, search for Las Vegas, and you'll get a look at the guide that we did. So just I wanted to give you kind of my personal thought about data, how complex it is, but when you understand what you're looking for and you use the right tools, it's amazing what you can find in no time, basically, instead of trying to understand what is going on. So I want to take it back, and I want to start with a general question for all of you. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much are agencies and brokerage leveraging data, in your opinion? And Sid, let's start with you.
All right. Well, first of all, now I want a burrito. Let's see. I thought about this a lot. I'm going to take the stance of 10, and that might be a little bit confusing to some people, because I'm assuming that there are some people on here who think, well, agents aren't using their data enough. But there's two problems that we're running into. The first one is when you think about the term leveraging, the only way you can leverage data, well, I shouldn't say the only way, but one of the most important ways in your base system that you can leverage data is pulling a report. And it's very complicated and difficult to pull reports in the current system, ecosystem. And so you find a lot of agents who are, because the process is so frustrating, either choosing not to do that, or when they do it, they're not really getting the insight that they need to, right? And then the other issue is that the systems that we're using aren't capturing all the data that we really need. So we are leveraging our systems at max capacity, and the issue isn't whether or not agents want to or necessarily have the questions that they want to ask, right? Or they know what they're looking for, but they can't get the data out of the system, either because the system's making it too complicated or because the data just isn't in there to answer the question that they need. So I'm gonna take the stance of 10 and play the devil's advocate here, unless everybody else is at a 10. Hit me.
So, Ron, what are your thoughts?
I'm on the opposite side, but Sid, you said a lot of interesting things there, because I think the lion's share of agencies have a need right now and an understanding that they have to have the ability to access the data and then also be able to establish strategies on that. But I think there's still a lot of work to do in this regard, because if you look at the industry as a whole, it's made incredible strides over the last handful of years as far as the adoptions of technology and the use of data. But traditionally, agencies have been largely successful by running their business the traditional way. So you look at relationship-driven knowledge of the market and so on, and none of that's going to change. What we want to do is be able to enable them with data. So using data and other resources that's available to them once they have access to it. And it's going to just provide them that additional layer of knowledge. And it's going to help them be more effective and efficient with decision-making processes. And whether it's looking at what markets you want to work with, what clients do you want to engage, what prospects make sense for you as an organization, but it's going to help you overall establish your strategy over the next 3, 5, and 10 years. And it's going to allow you to remain competitive right now, but also emerge as leaders when it comes to the age of that data-driven agency, which is a lot what Seth's building right now too. And we're helping a lot of agencies do that as well.
Anurag?
Yeah, so my view is, and several agencies that we've met, it's like the Pareto's law, right? It's 80-20. So we see a lot of, so everybody uses data, how they use it, how much they use it, what is it they use for, varies significantly, right? Even within the same agency, different people use it with different, degrees of love of the data. So, and again, there are several reasons, both what Ron and Sid said, I fully agree. In terms of, it's difficult to get some of the data. If they had it, they would have used it much better. They already use a lot of it, but it can go a lot more. But we clearly see differences in those who love it and want to, want more, and some of them who are afraid to, still get to it. But we see the shift happening.
Seth?
A real live agent. I'm going to take the bottom half of this spectrum. If you think about it, a lever is a tool that creates a mechanical advantage. So if you think about that term, data leveraging their operations, the premise of that is that there's a tool that can create advantage. I would argue agents desire, want, and will spend as much time going after that advantage, lifting the piano to the third-story apartment as they can. I think it's the tools issue. You give an agent a lever and they'll figure out what to do with it. And so I would think the bottom half of the spectrum, not because of the agency force or the will or the desire, but because they lack the tool for the mechanical advantage. And I know, you go back 3-4 years ago, when I bought my 23rd piece of technology that was supposed to report on my 22 other technologies, I knew, I was like, okay, wait a second. And what happens is we become like our father's toolbox out in the garage or my toolbox, where the tools are scattered everywhere. You don't have the right one. And so I think the ability to leverage data is pretty low, but the desire is a 10. And I think it all comes down to tools.
So we actually did some research around the topic, and it's interesting or not, roles of data engineer, data scientist across insurtechs is very common. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Metro Mile, a significant amount of their workforce, data scientists. Root, the same case. What do they know? Or again, as you said, maybe it's the ability, the technology that they have, but what do they know that big brokerage agencies do not? And where do you think there's a size limit? Like if you're a brokerage of 50, forget about it. Don't even go that route. Do you think there's a size limit for working with data?
For me, I think there's a couple issues with that. So I'm 20 years in the business, and when I first got in the business, we scaled on people. So you go into conferences, and they'd be, how many people work for you, right? And then about 10 years ago, you go into conferences, and they'd say, well, how much premium do you have? Well, we're 20 million, 50 million, 100. And I think data science is that idea that there's a scale element yet to be captured on that. And as we know, data capabilities are dependent on two things. You need the volume, right? And the big guys have that, right? But you also need the structure, right? You need that, you need the lever. And so I think what's happening when you talk about data science is on the InsurTech side, they've taken technology where they can scale access to data, and they're using it to pry or create mechanical advantage within the channel. I think for agents, larger ones may have the volume, but they lack the structure to that. So I think what you're seeing now when you talk about data science scaling down, I think it's less about data science coming down to us and how we scale up to it. And so at first, I think we were scaling on people. Hey, I got 100 people, so we must be successful. And then we were scaling on premium. Hey, I have $1 billion in premium, so I must be important. And I think what's happening now is saying, wait a minute, maybe the truth around scale and success is in this information and the ability to deploy it. And I think that's what's happening. I don't think data is going to come down to us as much as we're going up to it.
Anurag?
Yeah, so I think the whole data science technology has evolved significantly. So again, if you look back historically, it's not a new technology, but it was a very expensive way to implement it. So only the large and the big companies and corporates could adopt it. So there was a big factor of cost. The second, obviously, like Seth mentioned, is the volume of data you have, because data needs data. Unless you have enough data, you can't learn. Now, two things have changed significantly. So the whole cost of running AI or machine learning or data science capability, that has come down significantly. So what used to be available only to the big, agencies or big carriers is also now available to smaller agencies. How small can we go? I think it's a mindset. We've seen, recently examples of agencies who are writing really, really small book and still getting value out of it. There's some really exciting examples of what we saw recently. Somebody using one of our agency actually who uses our platform said, even while they're running the trial, I saw machine learning and I sold 2 policies just by looking at those recommendations. That's fantastic. It may be just 2 policies, but it's coming out of the system even without they having to do anything as a small agency. So I think the scale at which you can use will vary depending on where you are, but it's now getting more and more available. I always compare this to the GPS technology, right? 1990s was only available to the military. Who has it now? Everybody we can think of, right? So it's very similar. It will now be available to wider and wider audience as we progress.
So, you've been, Seth, I know you've been kind of vocal, but kind of low-key a little bit for a while. And Anurag and Ron, new addition to Aureus, and Sid, of course, everybody knows you. Talk to me for, the people that are here and may not know, I'm sure everybody knows, but for those that are not 100% familiar, Seth, what is Beatomic? What are you standing for? And what is the use case? Like, what are you here to solve?
Yeah, if you think about it, customers platformed in 2007, and they're on one of two platforms, Google or Apple, right? And everything goes through that. And carriers, even the ones on this call, have scaled on their platforms. Either they're reinvesting and plugging hundreds of millions of dollars into their proprietary, or they're going with platform solutions and they're spending hundreds, 200s, 300 millions on that. So you've got platform customers and you've got platform carriers, and then you have this disparate ground in the middle called agents. And Neon is the idea that platformed agents in the middle can connect those investments and that desire back and forth. And so we platform agencies on one technology. So prospecting, marketing, lead scoring, sales, customer experience, telephony, email, text, data, accounting, all of it makes data and connects to both the customer and the carrier. I would say our primary objectives are world-class customer experience. I can be as good as anybody if it's a fair fight as an independent agent. Margin gain within operations. There's no carrier on this call looking to pay me more money. And so I've got to figure out how to run lean, fast operation and run my agency profitably. I need to find margin, and that's going to be in my process and payroll. Data visibility. I've got to know everything that's happening. And so Neon allows an agent to know everything happening across that platform. And what's really unique is we scale data with other agents. And so now, as an independent agent, you can scale your data with me, with my agency, and together we can create the structure and volume necessary to run the big motors like Aureus and achieve that opportunity. And then finally, API integration with carriers. And so I believe that the carrier investment on the platform is not enough just getting to a portal. It has to go into the transaction, into the phone call about billing and claims and policy. We can achieve that. Now, all of a sudden, the platform customer, agent, and carrier are really humming along. Huge ROI for carriers, massive sustainability option and profit option for me, and happy, satisfied customers that have world-class technology and experience. That's what Be Atomic does.
Sid?
How do you follow that up? I mean, seriously. Yeah, I don't even know how to follow that up. We are definitely a mission-based company, so I personally, became very frustrated with some of the decision-making that happened at the corporate level, and said, if there's a group of people who can solve this problem that we're facing in the industry, where we've got a split between distribution and manufacturing, it's going to be the agents, because they know what they need and they're tired of people making it for them in ways that don't truly impactful for their day-to-day business. And they have the most pull when it comes to conversations with the people who really need to get involved, like carriers and potentially other vendors. So this is a group of people who is they are on a mission, to put it lightly, or to put it not lightly, I suppose.
I mean, it's very interesting, and to kind of even to think about being the standard for how agencies and brokers working together. To me, that's a crazy thought if you think about it. Like, who are you to be the standard? But I know there's success stories, and I know that behind Neon, there's a real agency that operated for years. So what can you tell us about what you've learned actually putting your thesis to the test?
Yeah, guilty as charged. I've been running on Neon for, June of 18, I went live. So June of 2020 has been 2 solid years of running on that platform. And the transformation has been amazing. I'll give you the customer's perspective. So same people doing the same thing. We were at a 45 NPS in June of 2018. Now we're running at a 69.4. Same people. Customers getting a better experience from our people, and that's completely changed their opinion of us and the carriers that they interact with. I'll give you another one. Retention. In June of 18, my agency was 87% retention. Same people, one platform, we're running at a 97 now. 10-point swing in retention. You want to talk about margin gain? Process, structure, and data as a way to inform behaviors has completely changed the economy and abilities of my agency. I'll give you a second, a third one. We're doing it with 2 less people and 4 million in organic growth. Think about what happens there. Happier customers, because we're running on a platform service so we can be better. And when we're better, we need less people that can do more. What's also interesting is people are making more. And that's what's really bizarre about it, is the average employee at Zinc is making 8% more. Women making 12% more. My goodness, like when you think about what we're doing in independent agencies, we're going in so many different directions, doing so many different things. The customer's suffering, we're not making the money, so we're complaining. And our lack of connectivity to our carriers is killing the success of our business. When you fix those things, fundamentally, these become healthy organisms again. And I'll talk about the soft benefits. Carrier esteem. Now carriers really value what we're doing, and they see the model that we've built, and they value us as a distribution point. And I'll say they're supporting us in different and better ways. It was really hard for me to get carrier support. Now I can get the carrier support I need for marketing and for growth initiatives that typically weren't available to me. So those are the kind of things that are really happening inside my agency, and we have yet to scale our data with other neons. That's what's really exciting.
Yeah. Just to play off of that, at a previous role in the industry, we handled a co-op program for agents, and it was just always such an interesting balance when, you know, you're giving money over to somebody and teach a man to fish, right? Kind of principle, like what are they actually doing with it, and what is the ROI on it? And it was so interesting coming into the Be Atomic world. We've got a group of marketers that are our pilots, and so they're running on top of that marketing piece of Neon that's fully integrated with sales and service. And as we've developed campaigns, as we've developed automations, strategy around the insurance customer, as we've been able to prove out those campaigns and show carriers, hey, this is what's working and what's not working, here's how your dollars are being spent, more than half of our marketing group has not only the ear of carriers, so they're getting more information about the insurance customer, which informs their campaigns, which makes them more money, but also they're getting hard cash. So take the co-op program. Okay, we'll give you $50 because we're not exactly sure how you're gonna spend it. It's kind of a tight relationship. Maybe next year it might be $45 because we weren't quite sure how it went. Now you're getting $100 because we know exactly where it's going. And even if it doesn't work, we actually learned something about the customer. So the next time we hit them, we know how to make it work. So yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, the fact that, you know, every business today has many problems, and you want to kind of reduce the number of problems that you're dealing with so you could put more of your energy into the bigger problems to try and solve. And, you know, insurance companies, brokers, agencies, insurtechs, they all have different problems, but, you know, the goal is really to eliminate as much as you can and to really put all your effort into the big things that no one has figured out yet. But technology, efficiency, connectivity, as you said, Apple, Google, they've solved those problems. It's a platform, people adopt it, they like it. Why not do the same in insurance? And I want to go to you, Anurag. Obviously, I showed a little bit of what your technology can do around food, but there's so much more. So you've been in the space for a while. You recently got into the Hartford. Where has your platform started? Where is it now? And talk to us again also about success stories, because I hear there are good things that recently started to happen as agencies and brokerage realize that they need to retain and improve their customer base.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, our journey has been very interesting, and it's evolved significantly over the past few months. You know, our whole hypothesis and our whole obsession is at the intersection of data and customer experience, right? So the whole premise is built on the fact that, yes, if you want to deliver good customer experience, the step one is to be able to measure it. So if you're not going to measure it, there's no way you're going to be able to deliver or improve it, right? I just mentioned how a 10% improvement in retention, that's huge. But how do you drive and link it back to customer experience. So for us, I think that's been the key driver, and our platform started working with global carriers. And we eventually, over the last few months, built a variant of our platform that also caters to agents, independent agents, and we are seeing some fantastic feedback, and we're kind of seeing the kind of adoption that we quite frankly, we've been more busy in the past 4 months than we've been in the whole year before that. So that's the kind of attention the whole platform's kind of getting. Of course, the food example you took was a fun experiment we did, just as a side project to just show the strength of what's possible. But imagine that being applied to all of these different types of data, whether it's text, it's voice, it's data coming from different sources. So all of that data coming together to help understand what the customer experience is. So our view is that if you really care about the customer, the end customer, you need to know what they're going through. And there are only two ways to do it. Ask them, right? Which is great but expensive and difficult. Or let the data talk, right? We come into play when the second piece comes in, right? So this is really where we are kind of saying there is enough data. Most of them have it. To your first question originally, are we using data? Some are using, some are not. There is data that's available, and we can get a lot out of it. So we are seeing some incredible use cases, some success stories. We had a very interesting success story where our platform predicted, somebody, one of the policyholder, without getting into more details of personal information, but said this particular policyholder also enjoys boating, and you haven't taken care of this. And they said, no, I know this customer for long enough. They don't do all that. And when they went and said, no, it was true. You knew the customer for 10 years, but you didn't know this about the customer. And they were at exposure because they had not covered it because you didn't know them well. So you actually, help the end customer by giving them the right coverage, which they would have missed out otherwise, and they would have left an open exposure. In that process, you made more money, and obviously the carrier with the agent, was happy in the whole journey as well. So everybody benefited in that. So we have got some very, very interesting examples like this just in the past few months.
Ron?
Yeah, and going back to everything that Anurag said, I mean, the absolute most important thing in the entire insurance transaction is the end insured, because that $1 premium that end insured is providing is being redistributed from carriers, reinvesting for their losses, technology, people, and same thing with agencies too, on that side. So that's what I love about working with the Aureus team and a lot of our agency partners is that they are so enveloped in working with their customers, making sure they understand what that customer is most likely to do next. Because Aureus has a unique ability to bring in data from all different sources. And Seth used the example, and it's just been a challenge of the industry, is he had 22 systems and he needed a 23rd to get some reporting off of it. Well, what Aureus does is be able to bring in all those 22 different systems, because there's a lot of wonderful data in there about customers. And then we can even incorporate third-party customers or third-party data providers to let an agent learn a lot more about an underlying insured, to go back to what Anurag said, to make sure that they're understanding the potential exposures that are out there. It's going to allow them to generate stickier business, have those incremental increases in retention, and ultimately get some organic growth off what you already have. Clients in-house with understanding opportunities and selling to them at the same time. And I just think it's been a great opportunity. And then the ability for all these technology companies to work together, and the willingness for them to work together, because they know that, Seth's organization, ours, we have some other technology partners that we all work with, that they're so flexible because they want to just do well by the agents and the carriers, because they know it's going to ultimately help the end insured.
I think the whole concept of data, if you look at other players in the market and you look, for example, at fintechs, their ability to analyze transaction data, how much debt you have, where do you like to order food from, are you buying baby toys, so you have a baby probably. There are so many companies that are in this space competing to get the consumer data online in an automated way, because that's your entry ticket to a conversation or a notification to a consumer where you may want to convert them. And I'm a big believer in the human touch,
Mhm.
just because I know it either comes with guilt or something positive,
Yeah.
which are very strong emotions. And I feel that's where agents really have an advantage,
Mhm.
because that's how you used to do selling in the old days, and it still works. But now you need context. That's the problem. People are busy. They don't want to be bothered all the time with random emails. And I mean, this is not relevant for me. Why are you sending this to me? So it's all about context. And once you have that right context, and then you generate that interaction and you bring your charm, you have a good shot. And that's what we're all here to try and do. So, Sid, you've been kind of seeing the whole agency brokerage space for a while. What are the biggest challenges that you remember from your days at Agency Nation, Trusted Choice, to now moving on and working at Be Atomic, Neon? What are the biggest challenges that agencies brokerage bring and share?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, I worked at Agency Nation for almost 4 years and was able to speak to agents all across the country of all different sizes. And when I would talk to them, I would hear a lot about surface issues that were happening. Well, I can't, this tool doesn't specifically do this particular thing, right? Or what tool can I buy that does this for me? And it wasn't until I met Seth and started really digging into the core agent experience that I really began to understand what was going on and what the problems were. I think what we've seen is obviously the customer has become platformed, very digital, and we need to be online and have that digital presence in order to connect with them, service them, sell them, manufacture policies for them. And you saw InsurTech come in, or technology come in, maybe not specifically InsurTech, but technology come in and try to fix very specific parts of the value chain in order to solve the overall problem. And what that's resulted in is sort of this Band-Aid approach where we're duct taping all these $50 to $100 solutions together, and nothing connects and doesn't really give you insight about what's going on, or doesn't fix the real problems inside of an agency. One of the real problems inside of an agency is the fact that we can't even get policy information from the carrier in real time in a accurate way. I'm sorry, it's 2020. That should have been something we solved 5 years ago. So how am I supposed to tell an agent, hey, buy this really cool cool thing that speeds things up and automation and blah, 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 when you can't even get a policy from your carrier accurately? That's a problem that has to be fixed. So there's a lot of piping, and I'll steal Seth's term here, but there's a lot of underground piping that has to be fixed first. And I think when you start to fix that, a lot of these surface issues that I kept hearing about over and over again when I would meet people across the country of all different shapes and sizes, a lot of that starts to dissipate. So I would say that there's a lot of agents out there who are looking for a specific solution in the value chain because that's sort of what they've been taught to do. But when we look at the root problem and do the really hard work of finding massive collaboration between carriers and agents, that's when we start to solve the problems.
That's interesting. And, I like your description of $50 to $100 solutions. And it reminded me of the 99-cent store, which I haven't seen for many years. I don't know if it still exists across the country, but, this brings me to you, Seth. And I saw a video where you're saying that premium volume is a trap. And I'm wondering now, maybe because the inability of agencies to get the solutions that were really efficient, maybe that's why they were forced to just grow, because that was their way of, sustaining their business. But so first, if you can explain what you mean by premium volume as a trap, and why do you think that is? And, for the $1 million question, really, how do you get agencies to shift their thinking and say, okay, let's fix the base first?
Yeah, I think for the last probably 10 years, right up till probably today, we will look back as the steroid era of insurance. This whole thing was fake. It was fake. And we all sat in the stands and bought hot dogs and went along with it. Oh, look at how big they are. Well, how did they do it? How did they get that premium? How did they become so relevant? They couldn't do it on operations. Think about the big guys, juicing, right? Outside private equity capital that couldn't be generated inside, superheating acquisitions at above market price, and then spun off and scaled with this external stuff, the clear, the juice, right? Okay, you hit your 72 home runs, you're famous. Look at the other ones, aggregation, right? We'll just aggregate all this stuff, scale operations, take that single shop, juice the carriers for more compensation, and call that success. We're all guilty of it. This is the steroid era of insurance, and we're all guilty of it. And premium was what we were all chasing. We all wanted the home run ball. Give us $100 million. Give us $1 billion. We're bigger than our carriers. Bigger, bigger, bigger. How's it working? Has anybody done it without the clear? Has anybody done it without the juice? Scaling on premium will be an ugly black mark on this industry. The fact that we couldn't do it with our operations, we had to take outside capital, leverage in an unholy way our carriers against agents to create this outcome. It's a trap. And so what is the moment? What do we have to look at? These people have not proven that they could do it without the juice. And so if we're chasing premium, then somebody show me that they did it right. Show me some agencies out there that have scaled successfully on premium to satisfy their carriers, to make a reasonable profit, and then to be able to have happy customers. I've been looking. I haven't seen it done at scale. And this is what I'm so excited about. COVID is kind of exploding that. Take away their capital, take away the ability to start up and leverage, and let's see who's going to come to the plate. Because I'll guarantee you it's the 80% in the middle. It's the guys like me who are out running bases in the heat, doing the work, running the stairs to get it done. And data is the key. Better to scale on data, much more scalable if we have the discipline to structure it, can grow it much faster, can feed my agency insight, make me better for my customer, and then also inform carriers and allow them to support us in meaningful ways. I'm calling it. The steroid era of insurance is over, and data is going to do it. And independent agents in the middle have an opportunity to blow the cover off of this game. And that's what I'm passionate about.
That's interesting. You talk about discipline. And before I get to Ron, if anyone has a question from the crowd, there's a Q&A section where you can go and submit questions.
You'll get questions after I get going. Trust me.
Oh, yeah. So, Ron, Seth talks about discipline, and as someone with a sales background, it's obvious that salespeople traditionally put more effort on prospecting, closing new accounts than cross-selling. First, what's your explanation to that? And from an organization standpoint, how do you get a company to come and say, hey, listen, put some more effort on cross-selling. Forget 1 second of chasing the new client. Because to look at data, as you talked about, Seth, it really is to give up that growth at all costs and always grow, always new accounts, always, that's the bonuses, new sales, new clients. What are your thoughts, Ron?
I love this question because it's something that's been bothering me, I think, for like the last decade or so. Because from a corporate standpoint, you take a look at my first comment is just follow the money. Understand how compensation works, and that's going to dictate the behaviors of salespeople. And I take a look back at 7 to 10 years ago. Before I was in this industry, I sold solutions and professional services that were pretty sophisticated solutions, but it was extremely high levels of transactions. So the compensation was heavily skewed towards new business. And then the companies did not care if you retained business. It was always like, who cares if we lose this wonderful account because you can go sell 10 more. And I never understood that. And I was successful there, but I wasn't as successful as I have in the last handful of years because of that mindset. I just didn't agree with it. New business is always important. I look at, I never understood why organizations would just devalue a current client that you have and not incentivize their sales team to retain that. And anybody that knows me, I love Mad Men. I have a man crush on Don Draper. He's my guy. But I think of an episode when Don Draper and Ken Cosgrove, they had a chance to win Heinz ketchup, and they already had Heinz division of sauces, baked beans, and vinegar or whatever it was on that. And vinegar and baked beans did not want Don and Ken to talk to ketchup because he didn't trust those people, and they already had a good client. And Don turned around to Ken. He said, "I'm sorry, Ken, but sometimes you have to dance with the one that brung you." And I just love that line, because that's ultimately what we do at our company right now at Aureus, is talk about how do I work with my clients on a deeper, broader level, retain your clients. So I do think about that a lot, because as an organization, specifically in the last handful of months and everything that we all had to go through, it's very expensive to go out and pursue new business. And it's much, much easier to work with the people, the clients that you have internally, making sure they're okay, making sure that you're retaining that business. And then ultimately growing that business too, by using data to understand the opportunities within it. And then instead of going out and chasing that new business and watching that good, sustainable business walk out your back door. So that, I love that question when you posed it, Avi, on that side, because I mean, it really is something that is kind of near and dear to what I've wanted to be as a salesperson over the last, decade and a half or so with it. So that's my spiel on that side.
It's an interesting topic, retention. And when you think about retention, you can either think about retaining your business, your product, or retaining your customer.
Yeah.
Those could be two very different things. And sometimes if you're in love with your product, but it's time to put it to sleep, you may lose your customer, but you really want to retain your customer, but you're not helping with a product that needs to retire. And how many of you have Norton antivirus?
Still?
Norton antivirus?
Seth? No?
No.
Not even in the 2000 when Windows came out?
I thought you meant right now, today have it.
No,
Yes.
right now. You don't have it anymore? No one has? So how are you protected? Are you not afraid?
I have no idea.
So this is
put on your arms here.
Someone could Zoom bomb us right now, Avi. I'm sorry. It's probably my fault.
This is an interesting story because in 2016, Symantec, or however they pronounce their name, they acquired LifeLock. How many of you are customers of LifeLock? No? Again, very dangerous. But they bought LifeLock, which is the identity theft protection company. And the idea was to revive their antivirus business, the Norton business. So it was in decline because fewer PCs were sold. And when you don't buy a PC and it doesn't come built in, then less customers. So that was a case of retention. Well, we want to retain our Norton product. Let's buy another product. And they bundled it together. And what happened was they reached a very kind of a senior demographic, the people that actually still have Norton on their computer because they believe that is the protector. But the young consumers, the new consumers, the modern ones that, are carefree and they have Mac computers and no need for an antivirus. So they kind of missed out. So that's, to me, the case where they wanted to retain the product, and they thought by retaining the product, they'll retain the customer, but they've retained the product, but they lost the customer. So that's interesting. And I want to go to you, Anurag. So COVID-19, everybody's now saying, we know of investors saying no more investments, insurance companies, no more investments. Everybody wants to wait and see what's going to happen. And obviously, with so many people losing their jobs, everyone is looking at their finances, whether they are still employed or not. Everybody's now smart. Everybody's baking bread. Everybody's canceling their cable. So, retention, you've been talking about that it's a main topic. You've been saying it for a long time. Retention is a big problem with insurance companies. All of a sudden, it's becoming now a main topic. So what do you think first are the drivers to this, long retention problem that's been happening for years and years and years? And what are some of your suggestions that you would give insurance companies that are looking to, and agencies, to improve in this category?
So you're absolutely right. I mean, we've been talking about retention for at least 6-7 years now from an insurance standpoint and longer across the industries. So our view on that is, I was talking to somebody and, he asked me a very interesting question. He says, is your business COVID positive? Right? So, and that kind of stuck with me. It says, what are you going to do with your business to come out positive out of this? It is what it is. It has happened, right? Everybody's going to take steps to cut costs. Everybody's going to take steps, but what can you do for your business? Forget it from an individual standpoint. We are all taking care of ourselves, but from a business standpoint, what are we going to do to make sure that the business comes out positive on the other side, right? And it all comes back to retention, right? So if you can hold on to what you have, you can sell more to existing customers, like what Ron said, value some of them, understand them better, right? Do your existing customers really think that you know them well enough, right? Or are they with you because of a certain price or for some other reason, or a bundle that they bought, right? Or are they with you because they think you really care about them? So I think this is a great opportunity. We've been talking about it. COVID probably is going to, help push the agenda a little bit, but it's not new. And this is a great opportunity to say, listen, this is a great time, step back. We don't have the opportunity to meet the customer in person as we thought we could in the past. That I still need to retain them. What are the tools that I have today in order to do that? Data is one big tool that you can use to drive all of this, right? There are other things you can do, obviously, but data is, in my view, at least one of the top two, if not number one, tools that you can use to drive retention levels and make sure your customers understand what you think of them, how you take care of them. Going back to a customer just for a service and not just necessarily only for selling more, or at the time when there's a renewal coming up, right? They're not the only two times when you call them up. Those kind of things will make a big difference. Understanding the sentiment, not only of a few select customers, but understanding the sentiment of all your customers, which is hard to achieve, on a one-on-one basis. But now there is no one-on-one basis. You're going to do it on Zoom calls, and we're going to do it remotely. So use the data and do it at a wider scale. And I fully agree with what Seth said sometime back. Scale with data, right? That's going to be the strategy that is going to help a lot of these agencies to kind of take it to the next level and to come out positive on the other side of COVID. So I'm saying, don't think of it as how do you survive it. I'm saying think of it as how do you benefit from it, because it is what it is, and we have to come out on the other side in a stronger way, than where we are. So, if data is one of the ways to do it, let's do it.
So, it's an interesting, and we have a few questions coming in. And so we appear on Google's first page when you search for cancel Lemonade Insurance. It's an old post that we did, and every day we see people on the post. I don't know if you have Lemonade Insurance, but it's very difficult to find the cancel button. They hit it somewhere. You have to click on your settings, and it's very small. And we saw like a surge in page views. It was when Lemonade shared their give back for, I believe it was 2019. A lot of times I feel like salespeople in organizations, they're afraid to initiate that contact with a client because they're afraid they'll cancel. And you reminded me, do I still pay for that? Or maybe I could downsize. So there's that element, and it happens when you remind the customer that you're there. Some that it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't a strong connection to begin with. They said, you know what, let's cancel. So that's going to happen one way or another. You may earn a few more months, but the potential of really getting closer to your customer base and knowing what's out there and what else you can earn, I think it's worth the risk. Unless you really have a bad product. In that case, never send any emails to customers. Be careful. So there's a question for Anurag. Any popular line of business do you see carriers focusing on for your data assistance? Any popular line of business you see carrier focusing on your data assistance? Yeah.
So, it's not one specific line of business, but mostly commercial lines, personal lines, both. We've seen agencies use this. One of the questions we get asked many times is this more relevant if you're dealing more with personal lines? And our answer to that is, even when you deal with commercial lines, somebody on the other side of the table or of the Zoom call or whatever the case might be is an individual you're dealing with even in that place. So there's sentiment matters. It's not only for commercial lines. So if you think sentiment or customer experience is only for personal lines, I think that's a big mistake. It's almost like saying B2B customers don't have customer experience issues. It's a mistake to think of it that way. So I think it's very clearly both personal and commercial lines have been using our platform. Some of the other areas we're kind of specialty, or some of those are yet to explore. But Ron, feel free to add based on a lot of calls that you had over the last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a question that comes up, but it is what you said, because if you look at the insurance transaction, even if I am the chief risk officer at a manufacturing company and I'm working with Seth and my organization's in Cleveland, I'm still purchasing policies, getting endorsements. The policies are expiring, I'm renewing, I'm buying additional coverage. I'm interacting with him on that side too. So being able to use that data from the underlying agency management systems, plus all those other ones that have the ability to plug into, is going to give you good insight on that side as well.
So we have a question for Be Atomic, and I just wanted to add, Anurag, maybe it's not so relevant for pet insurance because you can't speak to the pet. So maybe that's the only case where you can't, but maybe, a question for Be Atomic. Data tools aside, do you see other tools being picked up by your partners or yourself? So what tools are you guys looking to integrate beyond data?
Yeah, so the way we're built is all about scaling those hardworking agents in the middle who can't scale on private equity or on aggregation. So if you look at the ability to work inside your platform and first scale on data, we've also built it where we can take additional third-party services and really start to create efficiency. So our first one we did was Tarmica. So we timed commercial rating for 2 years inside of insurance agencies and found out, oh my goodness, we had no idea how bad it was. Boom, Tarmica, come in and let's cut that down from days, weeks, and a month on some cases down to minutes. Anywhere an agency can use collective data sets to scale, we want to do it. Natural language processing, how would we not be talking to Aureus on that, right? You get into wearables, IoT, scaling that data so that we can now have great agents that have all the expertise around that. Devices, so ELDs and vehicles, that data aggregated amongst agents becomes a very powerful distribution and leverage tool to be really effective. And so anywhere in the middle where these hardworking agents who are being out leveraged by these external stuff can come together, use data and this collective resource of Be Atomic, we can now start introducing Aureus and introducing Tarmica and introducing IoT and ELD, so that all of a sudden now at scale, agents can be world-class for their customers and save on margin so that they can get the profit back, making them better partners for their carriers too.
So we have another question, and this is to all panelists, and I'm actually interested to hear about this. Can you describe one or two of the more advanced applications of machine learning or predictive analytics by insurance agencies?
I think that's a good question for Anurag. I'm going to throw him on the spot there. No problem at all. Yeah, so, well, it's a good question for sure. There are many applications. Moment you think a little bit wider, the best is to go use case by use case, but think of it as if you build in the infrastructure and the design for data being available, you can keep adding different use cases on top of it. I mean, on the carrier side, we've implemented some of the use cases on predicting early claims, for a life insurance carrier, identifying who's likely to make a fraudulent claim within X number of years from buying a policy. So right at the time of underwriting, what are the chances of a fraudulent claim coming up, in 24 months from that date, right? So there may be many such examples. I mean, this is an example more from a carrier standpoint, but once you have the data infrastructure in place, machine learning is such a wide capability, whether it's natural language processing, looking at text, looking at voice, looking at structured data, combining it all together. So the amount of use cases, right from underwriting to, predictive consumer behavior of buying or to claims, there may be various aspects of it that are really possible. I don't want to say the possibilities are endless, but there are actually quite a few things that you could really do once you have the data infrastructure in place, and you use it in the right way.
And for us, it's an easy one too. You take a typical transaction inside of an insurance agency, home and 2 auto calls. An agency might see that once or twice a day, 10 times a day, whatever, right? And they're trying to figure out each time, like, okay, what do I do for this one? What do I do for this one? Inside of Atomic, inside of our warehousing system, we're seeing that transaction 10,000 times a minute. And so now very easily we can use the big motor to start to say, hey, yours is different in these ways. It's missing this coverage. And 85% of people that have that coverage have an NPS score over 80, right? So now by leveraging our data together as agents, we can scale on AI and ML, and now we can see things at volume. And that's really what makes the engines drive for Anurag and for guys like us. Let's scale it together. Let's look at that transaction 10,000 times a minute. And now when yours comes in, let's have a real credible data source where we can offer differential consulting through our technology right into the phone call. That's where it needs to go from our standpoint.
We have another question. So given the challenge that organizations face on data quality, how do you help clients solve for improving the quality of their data so that your innovative solutions can be optimized?
I think that's a very good question. I'll jump in first, Avi. It's okay, because in my past, I worked with an organization that works specifically with the data and agency management system as far as organizing, structuring, and trying to enhance that data so you can, first of all, make sense of it. But I think you have to do that first. How do I get access to it? Because I think that can uncover a lot of warts, I guess you would say, within the data. I don't have industry codes. I don't have premiums calculated correctly within this. I don't have my written and billed numbers correct on that side. But being the way we're able to pull information out from client and policy level detail fields from the system, then augment it with some other third-party sources, it gives you that easy to understand lens of where some of those shortfalls that can be that you can trace immediately back to an agency management system to say, I need to fix this policy expiration date. I need to fix this industry code. Because that's half the battle, is getting access to it and knowing exactly where it is. I know there's still a lot of work that's involved from an agency standpoint to go back and clean that up. But if you want to be able to utilize your data, that's going to be important for you to do so. But there are a lot of companies like us and others that can help you organize it, structure it, and just make sense of it first before you start getting down that path too.
Yeah, I would add to that too. Data quality is such an interesting term. I think often we limit it to this idea of sort of, fat fingering things into systems and email addresses not having the M at the end, or putting a date inside the wrong field, or missing a field somewhere. And so, moving the data, like we do a lot of data migrations and conversions would be Atomic. And so we've seen our conversions team is working on improving the data quality, right? Mm-hmm. There's that term again, as it moves from one system to the other. And that's certainly a fair definition of it. But, more so than that, it's also, when we look at the data set inside of an agency, what data is available to us? And so, and how is it all connected, and what can we learn from it? That's a bit of a broader definition of data quality, but, if you think, my dad's got an agency, and I remember when I was a kid, he moved into a bigger office and literally bought a bigger building so that right in the middle, he could have more filing cabinets. This was back in the, early 90s. And then somebody came in and said, Greg, I'm going to blow your mind. Guess what I have? It's a computer, and you can take all the stuff in the filing cabinets and you can put it inside the computer. And it was like, right, we've just now reached the pinnacle of success. And then the next guy comes in and says, hey, that room that you've got that's got all the servers in there? You don't need that anymore. You can put it on the cloud. And, you think about the idea of data back in the 90s when we created the systems that we're still running off of, and it was very limited to only risk profile information. Take the contract out, what's black and white, put it in the computer. Now we've got a data set, and hopefully somebody didn't fat finger it in. now you think, I mean, my gosh, like imagine what someone can learn if they have access to your phone. It's scary. Like the amount of, I wake up and I'm on Facebook and I'm posting things and I'm going to work in real life and I'm going to work on digitally. And it's what we're creating, a second self online every single day, over and over and over again. And so the expansiveness of data that's available to an agent, and you have to remember the value prop of an agent, right? The agency is the only one that sits right in between the customer and the carrier. They see the entire transaction from start to finish. They have the gold, right? Any agencies on here, you talk about data quality. Oh my gosh, it's yours for the taking. And so, that I think when we think about improving data quality, it's not just how do we get our people to put data into the systems correctly and accurately. It's what are our systems actually able to capture and what are we able to learn from it.
It was very well said, Sid. No, it was awesome.
Yeah. Very well said. There's another question. It's often forgotten why we're here to help someone when they need it most during a claim. What is being done to uniquely improve the claim experience for the customer?
From our side, I'll speak to that. We look like idiots at claims as agents. Customer calls me. I have no information on the claim. I tell them I'll call them back. I call the adjuster. I get the adjuster's voicemail. And then I wait 3 days while he calls me and gets my voicemail. And then I call back and I catch him. And then I call the customer back and get their voicemail, leave them a message. They call me back and I say, it's covered. About 8 days later, we look like rock stars. I mean, can you even imagine that that's how it is now? So one of the things we're doing, customer calls, claim case up, look in the case, API adjuster notes right into the case. So right on the phone call, I can say, Avi, you know what? What did you need to know? Well, I just want to know if my car is ready. I'm looking at the adjuster's notes right now. I can see that they issued a check for $2,500 to the shop, and it's going to be done on Tuesday. Is there anything else you need? You know what? My rental car needs another day then. Oh, you know what? I'll let the adjuster know. Put a note in there, and now the adjuster can see in real time what's happening inside of Neon. So those APIs back and forth all of a sudden make us caregivers and emotional caregivers for these people, and we actually look like the caring professionals we are. And so one part that we're solving is the connectivity and the sharing of information so that we can be empathic and good advisors for our clients.
And if I can just add to that, because of the setup that said, give of how your conversation is going on with the actual policyholder during the claim. What we are doing is at that moment giving them the sentiment score and also saying what are they likely to do next, so you can be proactive about it rather than wait for them to tell you what. So that's the other thing on the experience side. So if you combine what Seth said and what I just said, look at it in combination, that kind of covers the whole gamut for customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
Listening, my view is, and this is kind of more of a philosophical thing, but when we cover the insurance space, and we often talk to carriers, and they say, "Oh well, agents, they won't change. That's what it is. That's how it is." And then there's the investments, for example, in insurtechs, which we're all for. We want everybody to succeed. But when I look at it from a strategy point of view, and I'm saying, I look at 10,000 agents, or I look at 10 unicorn insurtechs, I think it's kind of harder to break the spirit of 10,000 agents. I think once a company gets into a place where there's layoffs and their customer acquisition costs are not good, that company could have 500 employees. It starts from the head and it goes down, and you feel like, oh boy, this is not going so well. And we always talk about different challenges carriers face, but I think enabling a lot of agents that can do a lot of little things, and you're not going to get a huge book of business from one of them. You're not going to have a unicorn agent, probably, maybe one day, but probably not in the future. But having all these bodies on the ground and having them doing, the things that they're comfortable doing, that they've done, they're confident, they can pick up the phone, they can go to that soccer practice, church, whatever it is that they know to do, just give them the right tools. And as you mentioned, Seth, in the beginning, a fair fight. I think it would be smart strategically for insurance companies to just give the weapons to everyone. have a lot of weapons all over and not focus all your money on insurtechs, which again, maybe because they weren't able to get the Google spot or their direct mail campaign didn't go so well, boom, you lose all your money. And then you're stuck. So I think it's interesting to see the results. Of course, you know how it is to work with such a diverse group. It's not easy to get everybody on the same page. But once you get some on the right page, then you have a lot of people that can do a lot of things. And I think that's a good place to be for insurance companies and not kind of overlook that channel.
We had the most interesting conversation a few days ago with a carrier we're working with, and they asked the question, hey, can you guys tell us, we're creating this billing API into your system, and we have a couple different solutions for it, and we need to really understand the agent experience. They don't know what the agent experience is for billing. They don't know, and so they didn't know what the solution was. And so you have a lot of companies out there with a lot of money who want to solve a problem, but they don't know what the right solution is. And so when they say, hey, oh, we can't get agents to, do the thing, they won't change. Sure, there's always that guy in the room, capital T, capital G. I won't say that everybody's, out there trying to change the world for sure. But a lot of the problem is we're not starting with the solution. We're starting with the technology, right? And so we're starting with the solution, not the problem, right? So what's the problem that we're trying to fix? And then we back into the solution with that. And I'll just say really quickly, because every time I hear agents won't do this or that, it hurts my heart. It really does. So part of my job with the Atomic is to capture the attention of the agent, with the agent world. And when we first started this venture, I didn't know where it was going to go. I was scared, right? I said, well, I believe in the solution. I believe in agents, and maybe they'll follow. Maybe there's a couple out there who will see it. We've got 15. We can prove it out. Maybe by 2021, we'll catch some wind. I don't know, like cross your fingers, right? To this day, we have a pipeline of almost 350 agents who have come through the website in 11 months. I have not been able to get on the phone with everybody. That's how many people have come through. And the conversations that we're having, and by the way, they're all recorded, so I'm happy to send them to whoever wants to see them. These are people who want to change. They just either don't know how, or they haven't found the right solution. And so there are plenty of agents out there who do want to change. There really, really are.
Change is good sometimes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not after your marriage. Don't change after you get married. But that's a different topic. I really enjoyed having this conversation with all of you. I'm sure our audience as well. So I'm going to wish everybody a happy Wednesday. Sorry, I just got a call, which I'm going to decline, but I'm going to say, yes, you know what?
We're playing with live info here.
I had such a nice ending, and it's still recording, but okay, this is the time where we say goodbye. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you to the audience, and happy Wednesday.
Thanks, Avi. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.